You're listening to the Voice of Montreal.
News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
An iHeartRadio station.
This newscast is brought to you by Supermarché Akavan. Discover fresh halal barbecue meats, hot bread made daily, homemade hummus, delicious prepared foods, and your favorite Persian products. Supermarché Akavan.
iHeartRadio is throwing it back.
2010s, the decade.
To the days of huge hits and unforgettable anthems. A non-stop stream of the biggest and best.
Drake, Rihanna, Beyonce, Katy, Gaga, The Weeknd.
And more. All your decade-defining favorites all in one place.
Hi, it's Katy Perry.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
This is Kesha.
Find 2010's The Decade on the free iHeartRadio app. Preset the station so it's always one tap away. Breaking news. Considered. The Elias Macco Show. News Talk Radio. CJAD 800.
Trudy Mason sitting in, looking at private schools. Why? Well, because private schools are saying that they can help out the public system by taking in students with disabilities and certain special needs. You might be under the impression that private schools cherry pick only the best students. They are saying, no, what's happening here is that we are not licensed to take in certain students where we have a lot of expertise that might be able to take the pressure off of public schools. Here to tell us more, Vickie Viens, president of Quebec's Federation of Private Educational Institutions. Vickie, welcome to CJAD.
Good morning, Mrs. Mason.
How many schools, private schools, do you represent in the Federation, Vickie?
A bit over 250 schools around Quebec.
And are these, English, French? Does it cover the spectrum, elementary, high schools?
Absolutely. So all the private schools, almost, I would say 97% of the private schools are part of our federation. So it represents English, elementary, high school, French, and so on. Yes.
Tell us about the rule that says you are not licensed to take in certain students, and this is a kind of a sales pitch you're making to the province. I think a lot of people aren't aware that that is a regulation governing private education schools.
Exactly. So actually, it's a solution that we're bringing to the government. You're right. We are not allowed as private schools to have multiple permits. And so a school must decide the clientele they wanna offer services to. They can either offer services to I would call it regular students, the ones that follow the regular program, which represent most, I would say almost all the private schools in the province of Quebec. There's also a dozen of schools that are more specialized and that have that permit to offer services to students that have major disabilities or special needs.
How do you think you would be able to help? What exactly are you proposing to the province?
So, as you said just before, people think that private schools do select their students according to the marks or take the best students in every area of the province, which is not exactly true. There are a few schools that do that because that's the model that they're offering. But when you look at every other single schools, private schools, they do not select their students, or they are more open to offer different programs to students that have some special needs, but they have to make sure that they can qualify them within a certain time period. So a student cannot lack more than 2 years of time to be qualified. Therefore, some of the schools do have special programs where they're going to do, let's say, secondary 1 and 2 and 3 years. Or they're gonna have special educators that will be in the classroom with teachers, or you're gonna have professionals available in the school to kind of accompany or to help students with special needs.
For the pilot project that you're pitching to the province, you've identified 10 high schools. Are any of them in the Montreal area, or is this mostly in the regions?
So we haven't identified any school. We're just saying that we would go ahead with about 10 schools because we don't want to be in a situation where we're in a lack of professionals. So we don't want to be in any competition with the public system or any other school. So therefore, we want to go ahead with schools that already have that type of service offer or that have the culture or being open to having this type of diversity in their schools. It's not that we don't want to offer the services in the region of Montreal or Quebec City. It's just that there are already a lot of public schools right there answering all needs. We are thinking more about other regions in the province of Quebec where some needs are not answered because the number of students that are in a certain area is not high enough. Therefore, the public system cannot answer the needs. They don't have the resources for it.
What kind of fees would be required to integrate students with these special needs into your model? Would this be government funding? Would this be funding from the parents? How would that work?
I think it would be a mix. So our solution brings this type of mixed revenue model where we want to have the parent that picks a private school to be paying for a certain amount of the fees. Right now, any students that do attend a private school, parents and other type of revenues from the school, whether it's fundraising or renting some rooms or other, it represent about 55% of the cost of tuition for a private subsidized school that comes from parents or those type of revenues. So the government actually pays for about 45%. So that's for subsidized schools. So we think that type of model would actually work with kids with special needs. Therefore, it's a huge saving for the government.
Any indication how this idea is going over? Have you had any reaction?
We've spoken to a lot of political parties. Right now, people really like the idea. They think it's a great solution. I spoke with my friends over the Federation of the Commission Scolaire and also from the Quebec Association of English Schools Board. Everybody thinks it could be a great solution. So we're really talking all together to try to find the best fit and how to kind of proceed with a performing model to answer all the service, to answer all the needs for all our students in Quebec.
All right. Well, Vickie, I'm sure we'll be following this story in the news if something comes to it and your pilot project launches. Thank you very much for the time today.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Vickie Viens, president of Quebec's Federation of Private Educational Institutions. In a moment, we will ask the question, how much would it cost to fix Canada's economy? It's in the trillions. I'll give you that.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all.
Bryan Adams Radio.
I'm coming back to you.
Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.
Hey everybody, how are you tonight? Sounds great.
The Elias Macco Show. News Talk Radio. CJAD 800.
Trudy sitting in for Elias. We've been hearing a lot about the Canadian economy struggling, and an opinion piece in the Globe and Mail is arguing that this isn't just about tariffs. It isn't solely about inflation or interest rates. It suggests that we have spent years and years and years putting too much money into housing and not enough into businesses that boost productivity, innovation, and long-term economic growth. Well, what would it take to turn the problem around? A lot of money. Here to tell us how much, Charles Saint-Arnaud, chief economist at Servus Credit Union. Charles, thanks for joining us on CJAD.
Good morning to you for having me.
Tell us about the underpinning for this opinion piece about how we choose to put money into certain places and choose, there's an opportunity cost when we take a dollar and plant it somewhere that dollar is not working for us elsewhere. Why do you think there is a mistake in Canada's thinking on what is a good investment?
Well, that can be a very long answer here, but it's really clear that when you look at the economic data, is the Canadian economy has been set on the wrong course for the past 30 years or so. We've been underperforming in terms of productivity and competitiveness over the past 30 years, partly because we are not investing in productive means of production. Business investment have been underperforming other OECD peers, and when we look at what has been taking the relay, it has been a lot of housing investment, which we can argue is, as much as it's important to have a place to house, it's not necessarily productivity enhancing.
Are you talking about people buying real estate to live in, or are you talking about real estate development?
It's really people buying houses. And that's the issue, is that there's such a thing, is that there's a limit in terms of amount of available capital in an economy. And if we spend all of it on, or more, a bigger proportion, on basically just renovating house and selling them back and buying, then that kind of that transactional part of it, that leaves less money for businesses to actually invest in what improves productivity.
I'm struggling as someone who has bought a home and who also has, like everyone else, saving for retirement. You've got, your little investments here and there. The one thing that real estate has shown us most of the time is that it's a pretty good investment with a return on dollar, whereas putting money into businesses hoping to boost their productivity and innovation, that's a little riskier. Isn't this a big ask?
Well, I think we have to also be careful, is that we need to look at it on a longer perspective, is that what happens in housing is that we let the market go without necessarily realizing that at some point we'll hit a wall where affordability will become a major issue for many generations. So those who are on the property ladder, as you explained, had a decent return on their investments and they're pretty happy, but that's at the expense of a whole generation who's completely being left out and has to spend extremely high level of their income towards their house or their shelter cost. So that's one part of it. But then the other part is that by letting more and more money going towards the housing market, continuously, in some ways, pushing prices higher, because we didn't want really to correct course, because we've known in some ways in many cities that housing was unaffordable 10, 15 years ago. We just, as politicians and the general public, decided not to take it seriously. But that came at the expense that over the past 30 years, we haven't made the essential investment in the rest of our economy to continue to be productive. And we have to keep in mind, like we talk a lot about affordability and all that, but affordability is as much as an issue, not just the price, but the fact that our income in Canada have been growing much slower, or our purchasing power has been growing at a much slower pace over the past decade, 2 decades, than it has been before. So obviously, if your income is not growing, even if prices are increasing the same pace, it continues to put a drag on your purchasing power.
I think in terms of struggling to get my head around this idea, what I've realized is that what you're asking people to do is set aside their own personal economic welfare in building equity in a house in favor of the riskier investment that will pay off for future generations. So it's asking people really to take a chance, and not for their own benefit, maybe for the benefit of their kids, for example. Is that accurate, or am I missing something, Charles?
Well, the way you put it, it's true. Is that we've let the problem fester for too long, and we need to correct course rapidly. Otherwise, we're going to continue to fall behind further. We're going to continue to have purchasing power that will continue to struggle. We're continuing to have competitiveness issues where we cannot grow our economy, and we see it with the tariffs right now. A big issue is just bringing to fore a lot of the issues we've left to fester over the past few decades. So we either continue our way and continue to fall behind further and continue to struggle, or we actually take the issue seriously and yes, it's not going to be pleasant. I'm not saying that everybody will be happy. Nobody's going to be happy to start to tighten their belt and to do and put the effort. But otherwise, we're just falling further behind, and we're just going to be poorer in the future.
So tell us about the pain of that effort. What would that effort look like, and how many trillions of dollars are needed to correct course?
Yeah. Well, to kind of just correct in some ways, like I'm looking at it because when we're thinking about it is that we need trillions of dollars of investment over the next 10 years. And because all investments are in competition against each other to get access to the capital needed. So if you don't have enough capital, it just goes to the most, to the project that have the highest, risk-adjusted returns. But when we put together to build what CMHC says we need 4.8 million new housing units over the next 10 years to restore affordability, and then to also increase invest more into stock of capital, so whether it's infrastructure, machinery, equipment, intellectual property, research and development, and all that. So putting all those together and solve some of our problems, we're talking about between 6.4 and 8.8 trillion dollars of investment over the next 10 years. So obviously some of that, like some of the investment will already have happened, because if you continue to the trend investment that we've been doing over the past decade, but in terms of additional investment is between 4.1 and 5.4 trillion dollars. Those are huge amounts.
Well, I'm glad you said it, because I was going to as well. Wow, that's mind-numbing figures.
To put it in context, and to put them in more context, Canadian GDP right now nominal is $3.2 trillion.
I think
so it's a lot. It's a lot of investment that we require. But again, we've let the problem fester for 30 years, and now we have a lot of catch up to do.
I think you have a sales job to do as well in order to start the catch up.
I think the way we have to put it, and that's, I think the general public needs to start to think about it, and politicians need to show it, is that I see it in some ways is all the effort that we've put in place in the late 80s, early 90s to rein in all the government deficits. It was not popular because nobody wants to see their tax credit or any government services to be canceled. But it was required and needed, and at the end of the day, the population was behind because they understood that it was, yes, we'll take the pain now, but there will be some gain in the long term. If we've seen that, those gains in the decades following that effort. So it's very similar the same way now, is that we need to take that short-term pain to ensure that we're on a better track in the long term.
Charles Saint-Arnaud, thank you very much for coming on and explaining this idea.
Thank you for having me.
Charles Saint-Arnaud, Chief Economist at Servus Credit Union. After the 11:30 update, we will speak to a lecturer at the University of Sherbrooke in the nursing department who will be leading a group of nursing grads to a mission aboard a hospital ship, the Mercy ship that is going to be stationed in Madagascar. We'll tell you what they'll be doing. That's coming up.
You've heard the chaos. Now you can see it. Oh my God. Watch all your favorite podcasts from start to finish right inside the free iHeartRadio app.
Gets the blood going, huh?
Catch every laugh and eye roll on shows like the Tom Green Farmcast and Park the Bus. Now with full video.
We're building a ramp for Tony Hawk.
It's the same hosts and the same chemistry with all the hilarious moments you've been missing right on your screen.
Cheers.
Open the free iHeartRadio app, search video podcasts, and tap watch.
Noon.
Missed something?
Subscribe to the Elias Macko Show podcast to catch up.
Available on iHeartRadio and wherever you get your podcasts.
Group of nurses from the University of Sherbrooke headed to Madagascar to serve aboard a Mercy ship. This is a civilian hospital ship, and on board they will be in charge of wound care. We'll talk to a lecturer at the Université de Sherbrooke coming up.
Your mom told you not to talk back, but we feel very differently. In fact,
we want you to talk back. and record your comment
Via the CJAD 800 page on the iHeartRadio app.
Another way to have your say on the voice of the community.
News Talk Radio, CJAD.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all.
Bryan Adams Radio.
I'm coming back to you.
Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.
Hey everybody, how are you tonight? Sounds great.
Stories impacting Montrealers. News impacting Montreal. The Elias Macco Show. News Talk Radio. CJAD 800.
If you've never heard of the Mercy Ships, this is an interesting organization. It operates the world's largest civilian hospital ships. There are two of them, and they are staffed almost completely by volunteers from around the world. The ships anchor in various ports and provide services to local residents, specific types of services, thanks to the volunteer work of doctors and nurses and hospitality people and patient care attendants and so on and so on. And again, this year, a contingent from the Université de Sherbrooke will be joining the Africa Mercy, which is stationed off Madagascar at the moment. We welcome to CJAD 800 University lecturer Chantal Doddridge, who will be leading the contingent. Chantal, welcome.
Hi.
Tell us about the mission that you will be leading to Africa Mercy. These students are part of a graduate program at the university. What have they been studying?
Yeah, they've been studying. They're doing a bachelor degree, and at the same time, they're doing what they call a micro program in wound care. So now we're on the boat for them to do their last clinical internship of their of that program on ship for 7 weeks.
I forgot to mention that we have reached Chantal on board the ship. So we are speaking to her from Madagascar. How many of the students do you have with you?
I have 3 students with me.
What kinds of patients are they seeing on board the Africa Mercy?
It's surgical patient that they need surgery. So there's 7 specialty of surgery. It's patients that are selected to, and it's really, really complex surgery that they're doing. So it's people that cannot have those kinds of surgery elsewhere in Africa. So it's really a specialized surgery cases.
Is this adults, kids, a combination?
It's mostly kids, but there's adult too.
And is the work, are your students finding the work challenging in that environment, or are the Mercy ships pretty well equipped?
Oh, it's really well equipped. The equipment is not a problem. It's equipped as any hospital you can see in Quebec. Everything is available for us if they need a test or something. It's all equipped as an hospital.
As the students serve out the weeks that they will be on board that Mercy ship, are they learning new skills, or are they strictly practicing what they've already learned in the program at the Université de Sherbrooke?
Oh, they're experiencing something else, because those kinds of surgeries, you won't see those kinds of surgery in Quebec. Because let's say, I'm going to give you an example. If a child is burned, it has an accident, a burn accident in Quebec, he's going to have surgery right away. But in Madagascar, no. He's going to be in a village, and the village going to treat the child as with what they have, And so they treat, like that's an example. They treat burns child that had a burn when they were younger, and maybe it's 3 years after that they have access to have a corrective surgery on ship.
So this is the type of work that they would not necessarily see here, because we do have a comprehensive healthcare system that would have dealt with.
Yeah, we do have access.
I'm wondering about the cases that you see too. Must be when you're dealing with Africa, you're looking at a healthcare system that is not especially well developed. These must be cases, especially with kids, that are very heart tugging, if you know what I mean. That it must be very rewarding for the students to be working with these patients, knowing knowing they're making a difference.
You cannot imagine how even the students are really excited. The patient are really glad, so much gratitude to be able to have those have the care that they need, and it's really, really resilient, I would say, culture. That those people are so resilient. It's amazing what we experience with that.
This is not your first time with a Mercy ship, I understand. This is actually
no. For myself, it's my third time, because I came in by myself as a wound care nurse in November 24, and it was the other boat on the Global Mercy, to be a wound care nurse and to be evaluate, to go there and to evaluate if it would be possible to have a project with them and the University of Sherbrooke and bringing students in. And I came, for the first time, I came on the Africa Mercy last year in 25, from May to June. And this is my second experience with another group.
You're working alongside doctors and nurses from other countries as well, I would guess, given that most of them are volunteers?
Actually, to give you the correct answer, there's 350 people, volunteers on board, and there's 55 countries represented.
Ooh. That must be a lesson in itself, just learning how to get along, different procedures, different ways of operating, all coming together, maybe different languages too.
But the language of practice is English for everybody. We work in English, so you can realize that most of us our first language is not even English. So you have to get used to a lot of accent, but it works really well. People who are here for the same reason. So everything is so smooth, and there's teamwork. I've never seen teamwork like that done in Quebec.
It sounds as though, as the supervisor of the students, you get a lot out of this mission as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I was doing humanitarian work before I got involved in that. But this one is different, and because it's even linked with my, as a nurse, that I can play a role of a teacher. I'm their preceptor, and their supervisor too, and we're working now with another nurse. So we're a total of 5 nurses on the team, and we work with 2 what we call day crew. And the role of the day crew, it's African people who are hired by Mercy ship. Their main role is to be the translator, and they act as aides, health aides for us.
Do you see during this, this your second actual mission with students, room for expansion of this partnership between the Université de Sherbrooke and the Mercy ships, that you would be able to encourage nurses studying other specialties to practice their skills aboard one of the ships?
Yeah, for sure. That's the reason too that I think the university got involved, because it's to make and do the promotion for nurses, even nurses in Quebec now who have their license, to come volunteer on the boat, on the ship.
Chantal Doddridge, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, and thank you. We've reached you on board that Mercy ship anchored in Madagascar. We appreciate that you had time to give us today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
Chantal Doddridge is a lecturer at the Université de Sherbrooke and is the leader of that mission of student nurses to Mercy Africa.
Unmistakably Canadian.
It's the music that raised you.
The artists raising the bar.
Hi, this is Brian Adams.
Hey, my name's Brett Emmons. I'm from the Glorious Sons.
Hi, I'm Nelly Furtado.
Made in Canada. The station that champions Canadian music.
Loud, proud, and all yours.
No passports required. Just press play.
Tap into Made in Canada now on iHeartRadio.ca
or the free iHeartRadio app.
.ca. Time is valuable. Thanks for spending your morning with us. The Elias Macco Show on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
So many questions. I have so many questions about how this happened, and apparently the feds have a lot of questions too. A Canadian intern working at NATO's military headquarters in Belgium has been arrested on espionage charges, and that has prompted Ottawa to review how security clearances are conducted for Canadians working in sensitive international roles. This intern was assigned to NATO's Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe operation, is accused of spying on behalf of a third country. The information coming out about this individual is that it is a Canadian of Chinese origin. The third country is not specified, but I think the implication of releasing the whole quote-unquote Canadian of Chinese origin is that perhaps this individual was spying for China. The implication or the suspicion may be that. Canadian officials say they are responding by looking at screening and vetting processes. Let's talk to Roger Hilton, former Montrealer, now working as a non-resident fellow at the Canadian Global Affairs Institute in Vienna. You've heard him on the show before. We say welcome back to Roger Hilton. Hello, Roger. And we're hoping Roger's link with us from Europe is functioning. What do you think, Jay? Yeah, we're trying to reestablish contact with Roger Hilton. So when we talked about this story a little bit earlier this morning, it was all questions about how or whether screening processes could have caught anything at this end, because Canada was, according to the Globe and Mail, was likely responsible for the screening process that would not have been done necessarily by NATO. We have Roger Hilton on the line now from the Canadian Global Affairs Institute in Vienna. Hi, Roger.
Hi, good afternoon. Sorry about that. I'm actually back home, so
okay.
Just getting my bearings.
All right. So, your thoughts about this story? We were discussing earlier, but whether this constitutes a black eye for Canada. It's certainly embarrassing. Would you not agree?
Well, I mean, I think my first reaction to it is it's no doubt a serious breach, but what we have to focus on is now, not that it's happened, but how we're going to react and how we're going to solve the problem moving forward. In some of the media I've been reading about it, I think it's important for the audience to recognize that this spy or alleged espionage was conducted at the military headquarters of NATO, which is a completely different offering set of intelligence that they could be looking for. But as I said, having myself received the NATO security clearance issued by the Canadian government but for a NATO military base, I think this is going to open up a lot of existing questions, not just for the future interns, but I think they're going to have to really double down and see, the existing practices and maybe do a whole nother screening process of those who might fall into a certain category.
Were you, in your view, well screened? Was it rigorous, the screening you had to go through?
I mean, I'm going to be quite honest. I mean, the intelligence services, RCMP, public safety, they are top notch. This is, a very long process. It took me, if I remember, because I got it in 2018, between 6 and 7 months. And mine was especially a little bit more difficult because I was based in Europe. So, just to give some context, all of the countries you visited, how long you were there, have you met nationals of these countries? So this is really an extensive process. But as I said, given that it was an intern, it might have gone under the radar a little bit. And what's most important here is that they did catch it, right? As I said, this is something that if they get somebody in early at the early stages of this, they invest in this person and they can grow, they can acquire more intelligence, they can get a lay of the land of sort of the rhythm at the military headquarters. It's really unfathomable the damage they can conduct and what they can give back to our adversaries.
One of the things that occurred to me, Roger, is that I wonder, how deep you would have to go short of surveillance to catch a lot of stuff like this, because let's face it, if this person had actually been spying for China, this is not some rinky-dink operation. These would be professional intelligence operatives who knew how to handle and groom potential spies. They would not be, allowing their photos to be put up on Facebook. Look who I had for lunch with today. It would not be an easy process to ferret out a professional recruitment operation. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they aren't all that professional and sophisticated. What do you think?
Well, just again, on a counterintelligence perspective, you have to assume that we're always playing defense. So it only takes one to get through. In this specific circumstance, I don't think it's a coincidence that they targeted somebody very early on in the process. If you think about it, an intern at the military headquarters has basic access. She's unrestricted in her movement, but she's not handling compartment information. She's not sitting in on any important information. Or meetings. She can't access high-level plans. But as I said, what they wanted to do here is just plant her, derive a level of comfort among, the Canadian and the NATO staff, seeing what she can do, and then take it from there. But as I said, counterintelligence is not just Canada doing it. It's the NATO team looking at it if there was anything suspicious. But of course, the fact that she got caught shows both the good protocols that the counterintelligence has, and also if it is in fact China, they will have to refine what they did, right? Like how did this person get through? And if she ends up making a plea, what is she going to give up, right? That's the main concern right now, if in fact it is China who is bankrolling this.
Yeah. Certainly rough, tough questions to ask too. Where do you suspect this is going to go? Are we ever going to get the full story, or is this something that we may end up never getting to the bottom of?
Well, I don't think we should look at the outcome of this specific case as the litmus test of how we're doing. She was denied bail, but this is just, if it hasn't already, unleashed sort of a whole rash of new reviews and assessments of what's going on. What we should be all hoping for right now is that after they do a debrief and they review it and they've gone through sort of people who have recently been issued security clearances, that they have stronger protocols in place about looking at this. But this is just really the tip of the iceberg. Counterintelligence or intelligence operations are in hyperdrive right now, especially among China with great power competition. So as I said, this is not a big surprise at all that they've been doing this. The Russians are actively looking at it and hostile powers. So as I said, this one case is just a small part of a much larger puzzle that the Canadian security intelligence agencies are going to have to look at. And moving forward, looking forward closer with, Belgian authorities, with our allies. And just to finish off, you talked about if this was embarrassing for Canada. it is synonymous in Europe, ladies and gentlemen. The amount of spy cases that the Russians have flipped over. I mean, it's Austrian generals, it's Italian admirals and people in the Navy, German nationals working in the foreign ministry. So this is not a new experience. What makes this a bit new from the perspective is that this is China who might have been caught and not Russia. And just the one thing I really hope as they review the assessment is now, given the global context of security and the last NATO summit where you had leaders from the Indo-Pacific joining, this is a massive asset that Canada can bring to the table. It's multiculturalism. The fact that we have so many first-generation Canadians coming from that area. So unlike allies in Europe, they don't necessarily have this asset to bring to the table. So while, this is a concerning issue, it's very important from an educational standpoint that the government, provincial governments, report, they make the message to, let's say potential targets of foreign governments, report this, you are Canadian, you are part of the process, and, together we can accomplish much more than.
iHeartRadio is throwing it back.
2010s, the decade.
To the days of huge hits and unforgettable anthems. A non-stop stream of the biggest and best.
Drake, Rihanna, Beyonce, Katie, Gaga, The Weeknd,
and more. All your decade-defining favorites, all in one place.
Hi, it's Katy Perry.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
This is Kesha.
Find 2010's The Decade on the free iHeartRadio app. Preset the station so it's always one tap away.
Sort of committing treason. So that's what I'm really looking at, that they don't turn their back on sort of a real asset that Canada has versus a lot of other countries.
Roger, always illuminating to speak with you. Thanks for your time.
Guys, let's fix these potholes in Montreal. I miss you all. And I'll talk to you guys a little bit later in the older world. So have a great day, everybody.
All right. Roger Hilton from the Canadian Global Affairs Institute. My very great thanks to Jay Farrar in Master Control and content producer Maxim Cadat. It's 12 o'clock. Enjoy your afternoon, folks.
This newscast is brought to you by Supermarché Ekavan. Discover fresh halal barbecue meats, hot bread made daily, homemade hummus, delicious prepared foods, and your favorite Persian products. Supermarché Ekavan.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all.
Bryan Adams Radio.
I'm coming back to you.
Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.
Hey, everybody, how are you tonight? Sounds great.